Okay, I think we can get started. At this point, I'd like to introduce Melissa Moylan. She's going to be presenting to you all today. And with that, Melissa, please take over.
Thank you. Hello and welcome everyone to Fashion Snoops Create Smarter webinar series. Today's topic is leveraging Spring Summer 18 Runway Insights Smarter with Fashion Snoops White Space. My name is Melissa Moylan. I'm VP of Creative for Women's Wear at Fashion Snoops, and I'll be guiding you through the presentation today. First off, a little bit about us. I see that we have a couple hundreds of you joining us today, a mix of older and newer clients, partners, as well as guests, and some of you that are new to us. So I'll give you just a brief introduction of who we are and what this webinar is about today. We are a global creative agency. We have been in business for 17 years. We help companies harness and act on future trends. And we work with leading brands and retailers around the world in 50 countries. An introduction of Fashion Snoops White Space. This is really exciting. It's a new platform that we've developed. We felt as a trend forecaster, our goal has always been to inform our clients of what's next. A few years ago, we realized that serving information is no longer enough. So what we did is we really set on a new path and we thought about what our clients need now. And that's how we developed Fashion Snoops White Space. We realized that internally, as well as the clients that we serve, we really need a new way of working. We need to collaborate with teams. The creative process needs to be more streamlined and it needs to be more digital than it ever has been before. So with a growing number of informational resources, there's so many different options to consider. The lack of workflow structure, it's kind of prevented real collaboration. And so that's what we strive to solve with FS Whitespace. FS Whitespace, at this point, it's taken many shapes. We actually initially tested it on our internal team. That way we were able to gauge the effectiveness of it, and then we rolled it out to our clients a couple months ago. So what we're doing here really is helping you work smarter. We've accomplished a great deal, and it's really this fantastic time-saving and great system. It's changed my work personally. It's cut down on the report production time immensely, and I think you'll be able to see that as well. So what we're going to do here today in the webinar, Leveraging Spring Summer 18 Runways Smarter, we recognize that getting information fast, that's really only part of it today. What we've seen more and more is that it's more important how you're actually going to take that information and make it your own. That's where the magic happens. The days of looking at straight runway are over. It's up to you to kind of make it a translation and create your own point of view. So we're looking at our analysis. Of course, we'll go through some of our key highlighted trends that we've seen on the runways of New York, London, Milan, and Paris. We're going to show you how to create your own dynamic merchandise plan that's ready for pivots. And then we'll also explain how you could actually use FS Whitespace to collaborate and align quicker with your team in a much simpler and faster way. So going through what we've created here is the Spring Summer 18 checklist, and we've identified a couple of key design elements to help you understand what we believe in for this season based on the runways that just wrapped up last week. It's creating this understanding of how you build runway. We know that it's more of a confirmation at this point as opposed to a forecast. A lot of the things that we'll cover in here are probably trends that you've already considered. We want to show you how you take that and prove your point. The strategy is really how you plug in the knowledge, and we'll show you how to do that through white space. But for now, here is the insight in terms of themes, colors, as well as key items. So first up, looking at some of the themes that we have featured for this season. These are just the ones, again, that we've seen from New York, London, Milan, and Paris, and the ones that we believed were really important coming directly from Runway. So first off, Luxe Leisure. This is this continuation of sport and athletic influence. We've seen that on so many designer runways, including Valentino. So even if you consider how luxury Valentino is and the fact that they've adapted luxe leisure or sport couture, we've also called it that, it's really important. Graduation is the second one. This one illustrates this continuation of minimalism, but it's also coupled with sport reference and tailoring. Power women, this one's super important. We've seen this from Versace to Saint Laurent, and it's this power 80s statement. Suburbia, this one actually resonates with one of our forecasts really well, called Suburbia Disturbia, and it's looking back to that suburban lifestyle. It's also one of the big cultural trends that we have on our site, and we'll go into that a little bit more. Then finally, what we have is one called Anything Goes, and this also identifies with the individualist forecast, which we've projected out in dealing with so many mixed matches of references, things that don't ordinarily go together, but they are composed in a smart look. It's almost like peacocking. A little bit more on the luxe leisure trends. Here, what we've seen across the board from all of the 4 major cities is that designers and brands are keying into this new dress down reality. And so the way that we're doing that is we're infusing traditional athletic details on regular sportswear, ready to wear. Some of the names that have popped up here: Tom Ford, Valentino. We were seeing a lot of bodysuits, cargo pants, and that really proves how influential the trend is, because those designers, they're not typically associated with anything sport. What's also really key here is that we're looking at a lot of soft pastel colors, and that really serves to soften the look of any traditional sport references. In terms of some details, what we've seen, there's drawstrings everywhere. And what's nice is that we're seeing it kind of juxtaposed on items that traditionally would not feature a drawstring, such as a dress or a flowing skirt. The next theme that we have is graduation. This is something that we saw coming on strong from the New York collections, 3.1 Philip Lim, Mons, Jason Wu, but it has continued throughout Europe, so that was really kind of interesting. There's a sense of minimalism that definitely continues here, but it becomes a little bit softer. Also, we're seeing that minimalism coupled with tailoring. So you're seeing a lot more of a tailored influence, and that's something, definitely to focus on. What's also interesting here is that we're seeing a sport reference as well. So you're definitely going to see more of the traditional notions of sports. So you see a lot of those great shirting stripes, the panels on the side of the track pants, for example. This is also a great place to progress the notion of reworked tradition and hacked staples, which has been reoccurring and is still really important. There's a lot of nice denim that we could incorporate here, shirting, as well as the tailoring, which just kind of serves to give it a little bit more of a sophisticated message. The next theme that we have is called Power Women, and there's a couple of really important moments that we've had in the recent fashion weeks. I think the first one was Tom Ford's Power Women in that hot pink blazer that really just stood out. Another one is Donatella Versace. She paid tribute to her late brother Gianni, and her collection of Power Women, it even included the original 90s supermodels, which is such a fashion moment. A lot of trend-wise, we're looking at strong shoulders, impacting those tailored blazers, suiting options as well, some very strong, bold prints like the Medusa print at Versace, and metallics. We've also seen a lot of embellishment, more than before, also embellishment for day wear as opposed to evening. So that's another trend that's really important out of Power Women. The next theme that we have is suburbia. As I started to mention, this really resonates with one of Fashion Snoop's forecasts called Suburbia Disturbia. And it's really fresh and new. We're looking at 50s and 60s silhouettes that are paired back to classic checks or plaids, and it really has a nice cheery color palette to it. One of the most important designers that we saw here was Victoria Beckham on the left. Retro-inspired silhouettes, again, impacting those plaids and checks, and a really nice casual daywear moment. In terms of silhouette here, a lot of attention is paid to the mid-calf shape. We're seeing that continue. We'll also feature that in some of the key items as well. The next runway theme that we have is Anything Goes. This is, as I had mentioned before, the continuation of this notion of individuality. And it's really reaching a lot of higher level designers. Oscar de la Renta, Dries Van Noten, Miu Miu, Margiela, they all tapped into this trend in some shape or form. As I had mentioned, if you think of street style and kind of style peacocking, that comes to mind here because we're looking at things that don't ordinarily go together. The juxtaposition of different fabrics, it could be a jacquard that's mixed with an organza, for example, and also this notion of pattern clashing. So again, things that really don't traditionally go together, but they're composed to make really an individualist statement. Now we're going to go into some of the most important runway colors that we've seen for this season. Again, this is just a preview of everything. What we'll focus on here, a couple of the highlights. Red is such a power color. We're going to see that continuing. Yellow, and then also this sentiment of really beautiful pastel colors that come to the forefront. So the first one up is Hibiscus Red, and this one is really such a powerful color. We have seen red in a cultural context, saying that it's really a form of women empowerment, and it is, and it still remains such an important color. It's really widespread and quite commercial. This particular shade of hibiscus, it's really saturated. It also has some deep undertones to it that apply to a multitude of items. The next color that we have is Yolk. Yellow was a really big statement color as a fashion color for this season. This is one of the brightest yellows that we've seen this season. There are also some more muted tones as well. And the fact that we are seeing it on so many different classifications of merchandise really attests to its importance. The next color that we have, this is going into really a range of pastels that we felt were so important this season. This one is called Work Shirt Pink. So the name kind of, it actually stems from one of our forecasted colors, and it kind of denotes this casual element to it, but we're also seeing it in more diaphanous materials, and obviously it comes to mind with a romantic notion as well. The next color that we have is called Beau Blue. This one, blues have been important, and in particular, there's been a trend of shirting and this exploration of shirting blues. So this particular one, I think it nods to chambray as an influence, and it really becomes one of the most beautiful pastels out there this season. The next color that we have also featured in our Spring 19 forecast is Third Eye. And I think this one is really the newest to enter the pastel conversation for the season. What's nice about it, I think, is that we're seeing it. Yes, of course, there's beautiful kind of sheer transparent chiffons that it's applied to, but there's also some new fabrics as well, such as your satin or charmeuse, even some metallic textures as well. And I think that just brings a new light to this particular shade of lavender Third Eye. Another color that's really important and getting more into the base conversation for this season is corporate blue. So this nods in its name to tailored reference. And as I had mentioned, that's something that's still really important for this season. It has tailored origins, but we're definitely seeing it permeate throughout collections as a fantastic base color, navy, for this season. And then the final color that we're looking at here, it's another red, just to attest to the importance of red again. This particular color, maraschino cherry, it's more bright than the hibiscus color that we had featured. This one, I would say that it applies more to the young contemporary market. There's a little bit more of a casual element to it as well. Now we're going to go into some of the key items for the season that we've seen. This is a layout of 10 of them that we've selected for this presentation. So the first one that we have is the Power Blazer. As I had mentioned, tailoring still continues to really drive home a lot of key messages for this season. But what I like to look at the Power Blazer with is that it's not just for tailoring. You know, we are seeing suits, which we'll see in the presentation as well. But the thing about this is it could be very young as well. For example, the image on the right-hand side, that it's paired with a bra top underneath. So that kind of serves to the message, as it could apply definitely for your young contemporary or junior market. Also here, we are still featuring this kind of borrowed from the boys silhouette. So in that aspect, we're seeing oversized shapes, the kind of sloped shoulders or strong shoulders, which nod to the 80s reference. One of the woven top key items would be the camp shirt. And I know we're all familiar with the importance of shirting and kind of rework techniques. That's still happening, but the camp shirt is something that's a little bit newer. I like this one in particular because I think it resonates with that 50s, 60s suburbia trend that we're seeing. So that's a nice new one to consider in terms of your wovens. And of course, this is also a place, you know, to apply any print or pattern. We could also get a little bit more creative with any kind of trend patch or embroidery here, as we've seen in other shirting styles. The next item that we have is track pants. There's a lot of items here that definitely resonate with that trend of luxe leisure, that influence of sport that is now so mainstream. So the track pant, that's definitely here. We're seeing it in different varieties, from nylon materials and color blocked plays, which really nod to a more traditional notion, to more untraditional ways. For example, the denim track pant. Next up, we have the power suit. So obviously this nods to the influence of tailoring that we're seeing for this season. We could see this in obviously full pantsuit styles, a lot of influence on that wide leg pant. But I think what's newer to consider would be the different kinds of suits, such as the short suit that has a definitely younger vibe for this season. There's also a number of different skirt suits to consider. This particular one embraces that mid-calf hemline that's been so important as well. Next is the polo. So this one is another item that nods to that athletic or sport influence. I like to kind of think of this and remember those reworked shirts that are still so important, and taking that notion of, you know, your traditional button down and what do we do to make it new. It's basically the same principle that we're applying here with the polo. Such a classic staple item, but what are we doing to give it new light? So things that we could do include hacking it, making it off the shoulder, kind of positioning the buttons a little off skew, making it a cropped silhouette, also adding drawstrings to it, color blocked notions, changing the collar, making it a contrasting collar. Another item that we've seen, this was a particular big one in the Paris collections, actually, and that also I think really resonates with the fact that everything is so casual right now. So the Bermuda shorts, these are a slimmer style. They're above the knee. There are a couple styles that feel a little bit more formal with the crease detail down the front, but that's definitely something to consider when it comes to shorts for this season. Next is the parka and anorak. This one obviously also nodding to the influence of luxe leisure. This, I would say, is the outerwear item of this season, but we have to consider how to update it. So here we're looking at, on the left-hand side, that's a Valentino. Embellished and even sheer parka. So that's something, traditionally we were definitely not going to the gym in that one. There's also obviously alternative materials, denim is incorporated, and then we could skew a little bit more true to sport with nylon materials and some color blocking as well, more of a traditional windbreaker style. The next item that we have is the midi. This is something that we have been following since its inception, really, but it's kind of everywhere right now, so that's something to pay attention to. It's relevant for both skirts and dresses, either slimmer styles, which we're seeing with the skirts, as well as fuller styles, which have a little bit more of a almost like a prairie notation when it comes to a little bit of a fuller style, or it could skew more romantic as well. When it comes to those slimmer styles, typically it's a higher waist. Slits are also incorporated into the design, which make it a little bit easier to wear. Then we have the jumpsuits and overalls, and this is one of those classifications that, yes, we always have a little bit, but this particular season we've seen so many different styles, going from your coveralls that really resonate with a workwear theme to your kind of disco jumpsuits, to your overalls, your bib front overalls. So that's definitely an important classification for this season. And then finally, for key items, we have the bodysuit. This one, it resonates with a lot of different trends that are happening. Starting from the left, that's Tom Ford. The styling was interesting, obviously, with those really high-cut legs and the low-slung cargo pants. So that was an interesting statement that we saw recur on the runways. This one is also particularly relevant when it comes to that power women theme, the 80s, and pairing the bodysuit back to the blazer. Obviously, we'll wear it with a shorts or pants or a skirt layered on top of it, as you see on the right. So now we're coming to the portion of our webinar where we are encouraging you to analyze runway. You can take our trends, but you need to make them your own. So here we've found, more and more as creatives, we're challenged with taking a stand, not following the obvious path. It's especially important, I think, when it comes to runway. We know that many designers are looking at the same information. So the speed of the translation, that's really only one challenge at this point. And it's more about how you take that knowledge and you plug it into your seasonal formula. That's kind of where the magic happens now. We know that here at Fashion Snoops, so we're creating tools for you to integrate research into your own strategy, and that's really what Fashion Snoops Whitespace was built for. So now I'm going to switch over to our website and show you Whitespace. Here, just a little bit of a navigation. Here in Whitespace, we have Get Inspired. This is where you'll find all of our fantastic research reports out there, and Create is where you'll make it your own in Whitespace. So now where I'm going to go into Women's Runway Analysis. And so here you'll find all of the major cities, the analysis, and I'm going to go into Paris Fashion Week analysis, and you're going to get the full report of our recap, which, of course, we do for all of the cities, all of the major design elements, themes, colors, items, pattern, graphics, materials, and details. I'm going to see this up here that says click here to make your own recap now. So I'm going to click on that, and that's going to take me into the create space. Okay, so what that's done is actually all of those design elements or ingredients that were inside of the report on our website, they're pulled into here. So there's folders with all of them, from details to items to themes. Just a little bit of a navigation on Whitespace. So here we have our projects. We'll be creating a project. You could create a concept board, planning boards. We'll get into that a little bit later, as well as color palettes. Here we have our images from the image bank. This could be anything that you save from our website into your own folder. More photos. This is from the report that we drew from on the site. You could bring in photos from your own Pinterest, as well as other Fashion Snoops reports. So what I'm going to do now is go into concept boards. You have a number of different formats that you could actually choose. I'm going to choose the 3 images. Okay, so now we have our format. And here is, again, where you could see all of those design ingredients, all the more photos from the Paris analysis. So we had just spoke about key items. I'm going to go into key items, and I think I'm going to go into parka and anorak. So all of those images are appearing here at the bottom. And I am going to create a collage of, I think, my favorite ones. So let's pull them into here. It's honestly, it's as easy as clicking and dragging. It takes 2 seconds. I'm going to take this one. And let's take this one as well. No, I don't think I'm going to take that one. I could just take it out and replace it with one that I like better. Okay, so there we have our first board. As you can see, it really took less than a minute. We could name our projects here. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to call this Spring 18 Runway. Save it. And I'll call, you could also name the board here by right-clicking. I'm going to call it Parkas. And I've saved it. Another thing that you could do here is color. So you could actually add this to your project. I'm going to create a new board. Also going to choose 3 images here. And I'm going to go down to color and see some of those colors that we were able to pull out. As we can see, there's a lot of trends that are here for this season. Okay, so here's my color at the bottom. And I really like that red color hibiscus. So I'm just going to pull that up. I'm going to pull a couple of my favorites here. We have all of the functionality here when it comes to, actually being able to zoom in on things. And here what I'm going to do is I'm going to add color. So here you're actually able to add color, Pantone colors. If you're not familiar, we also have an amazing tool in Whitespace that enables you to add color from any color system. So we have Pantone, we have CSI, or Chroma as well. And you're able to find color. You could look it up by the number. You could extract it from images. You could pull it from a color bank. For example, if your color bank, you were able to pull colors from the site onto the system, onto Whitespace. Then also in color forecast, I know that we actually had some red in our spring 19 forecast. So I know that it was called Origin. And we'll see here, here's a red. I'm going to pull that right in there. I think we had some more reds as well. Yep. Okay, so I could see that we could add the color. We could add any other color that we see here as well. Perhaps, you know, this one we could change the width of it and do different things there. So we could really pair it. I like that one. I think that one makes sense here. So I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to right click and I'm going to change the color name to hibiscus red and save it. I'll show one more in terms of how you could create a board. I'll also select the 3 images here. And this board, I think that I'm going to make it one of the themes. So I'm going to scroll down to my themes. I'm going to go into the Luxe Leisure, since that one is definitely a favorite for this season. And I'm going to pull a couple of elements here that I thought were important. What's also interesting here, okay, for example, I've talked about Luxe Leisure and how important that is. We're looking at themes. Maybe in our report you also saw that, you know, we called out a lot of details in that report as well. So here it enables you to, within that Paris analysis report, you're saying, okay, this is interesting, this Luxe Leisure, but also in details, maybe you saw that there were twists and knots. And that's one of the key takeaways for details this season, and you want to include that one as well. So there you could include that. I'm going to rename this to Luxe Leisure and save it. Okay, so now I'm going to go back into my presentation. Okay, so what I've just showed you is basically how we could take the runway analysis, how we're going to make it your own, and how that makes you create smarter and really leverage the material but bring it into your own perspective. Now I'm going to go into the dynamic merchandise plan, which is ready for pivots. And here, you know, we came about the merchandise plan because we know the challenges that you face with new ideas and inspiration that are just coming at you daily, and deadlines that are getting shorter and shorter. So what Whitespace allows you to do is build and pivot all in one place. If you need to add items to your merchandise plan, it needs to be accessible, but it also needs to be visual so that you can make decisions quicker. So here's an example of the merchandise plan. I'll go into that. Traditionally, when you align your merchandise plan, it sits in an Excel sheet. We know that we also know that you have a line sheet as well. And it sits in Photoshop, and you have 3 different teams, you know, that need to make the final call about something. And we have to make these pivots, you know, hard and heavy, and it allows you visibly to access and change kind of a visual Excel sheet. So this is going to allow you to build a merchandise plan, to visualize items, and then actually put them into thematic stories. You're going to be able to make a more visual decision in terms of what to plug in where. You're already working with a merchandise plan, so we're looking at runway in terms of a point to act. You're able to remove things, plan ahead, and it really becomes this form of structure, but it's also reactionary in terms of what happened on the runway. So now I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to go back into the site, and what I'm going to do is pull up the merchandise plan that we have featured for spring 18. So I'm going into forecasting, spring 18 as the season. Inside of key items is where we'll find our merchandising matrix. Okay, so there's the merchandising matrix that we've created at Fashion Snoops. But again, what you're able to do here is edit it. So I'm going to click on Edit Now. And that will take me back into Whitespace where I'm able to really create and make it my own. Okay, so here it is, and this is, workable. So you could look at these things and say, you know what, maybe the slip dress isn't working for you, so maybe you could take that out. It's going to ask you to save it because that's going to make it your own. So I'm just going to save that quickly. Okay, so just to be familiar with the matrix that we have, on this side we have all of the thematic stories or capsules or whatever you'd like to call them. And then across the top is where we have the items. So we're really building this in terms of what we need to factor into our merchandise seasonal plan here. The parka, that's something that we had mentioned. This is the one that we had planned out. Maybe we don't like that one, so we're going to take that out. And we're able to, through more photos, we're able to replace it with something new. Take this one. And drop it in there. So it's really as easy as clicking, dropping, and dragging. Also, what you're able to do here is you could add to this and make it your own. Okay, so we added another 2 columns here. And maybe here we're going to add with the Bermuda short. Okay, so we could add that. That was the more photos from there. I'm going to go back into the Paris analysis report. And I see the Paris by city report that again includes all of those items that we've featured in Paris analysis. And I'm going to say, okay, new tradition, that one was a little bit more tailored. So this is how I could add the Bermuda short there. Okay. So that allows us to do that on the merchandising matrix. I'm going to go back into the presentation. Okay, so that was the merchandising matrix, so we could see how we could really align, our thematic references to our items. So again, the whole point behind this and looking at inspiration and drawing it into Whitespace, it's really to collaborate and align quicker and simpler with your team. So here what we want to achieve is we want to get more hands on deck. We want to involve everyone that you work with to get everyone on the same page sooner. There's more input from more departments. We know that, even within Fashion Snoops, we're working with people all over the world. We want to get everybody on the same page. There needs to be this sense of transparency amongst the team that's really encouraged. So we want to educate everyone to get them on the same page. So here's what we want to do here. We want to align the team, make it simpler, create from a collaborative aspect. There's a lot of digital aspects to the process through the integrated system, and that's feeding all of the research, the forecasting content. It's plugged into the system to make it actually come to life. What we're going to be able to do here is we're going to be able to share it with anybody internally or externally. We present it, and we also could archive it. So when we're creating collaboratively, this allows us, the white space, it allows us to concept quicker. We're able to share with our colleagues and co-create with them in real time. We could comment and tag members to get feedback, and then we finally share the boards and create a presentation. I think in terms of, you know, the early steps of thinking, it needs to be done with other teams. It allows us to come up with the ideas, to pivot quickly. It leaves room for more to be developed, and it also opens up, you know, feedback within your own team. In terms of presenting, then we're actually able to present our work that we've done in FS Whitespace as a slideshow in one click. It honestly couldn't be easier here. We have a team at Fashion Snoops that's equipped to do an onboarding process. We've kind of questioned this, how to move ideas from inception to actually selling. So we have a team, you know, that would be able to train you on Whitespace, to how to use the tool to be more effective, and for everyone, you know, to get on the same page sooner. And then eventually, once we've created something that we're happy with, we're able to export it as a PDF, a JPEG, or a vector image to farther change. And then finally, it serves as an archive. So this enables you to save all of the boards and projects that you've created, all of the palettes as well, and different color combinations, and go back to previous seasons. So as you build into Whitespace, I think it'll really build up a really nice collection or library, if you will, of what you've created, and so you always have that on access. I'm going to show you how to do those tools, switching back to Whitespace. Okay, so these are the boards that we've created, you know, earlier in the webinar, the ones that I called Spring 18 Runway, and these were our trends. So what you need to do here, there's some tools that I'll draw attention to. Here, I'm able to comment. I'm able to say, you know, to my colleague Patricia, and I want to say, must do tied waist, and to post a comment. And then she's able to see that and comment in real time, which to me, this is so important because, you know, we've gone back and forth sending files, sending feedback over email, and this just makes it seamless. You're commenting in real time, you're getting an answer in real time, in terms of what you're able to do. So here what we're able to do, we're able to save here. We've already done that. We are able to export it, as I mentioned, JPEG, vectorized PDF, or print it. And we're able to share it. We could share this with users within your company. We could also share this with external users. We could add a company logo to it to make it you know, more custom to your needs. And then finally, what we could do is we could present it. So I'm going to click on that. And here we have our presentation that's already done. So I think that's something that's really important, that the ease of it, it's so, you know, it's just so easy, and we could present something that used to take so much time, you know, when we were in Photoshop, to put this all together and to really make it a seamless process. So that concludes our presentation for today. As I mentioned, this was really just you know, a preview. I kind of just touched the surface when it came to Whitespace. We have one-on-one demonstrations that are available. We have a team that's equipped and able to give you an onboarding process to really get you familiar with all of the tools that are within Whitespace. Client training information is available to you, as well as color workshops. So we hope you enjoyed this presentation on Spring Summer 18 and leveraging Fashion Snoops Whitespace with all of the research. Thank you so much for joining.